Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we got a theme today, quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen. And the theme we've got is Stage 2 Pokemon. The Hisuian starter Pokemon from Legends Arceus, and as a Magnezone we need to have a little bit of a chat about as well. They're here, and I, for one, am excited. Shout out to the lovely Antoine Boulet, who has, of course, provided our translations here. So, we might as well start off with Hisuian Samurott, purely because that is blatantly the best of them. It's the one I chose in the game, and when we looked at the V-Stars the other day, I'm sorry, I don't think it's terribly close. I think Hisuian Samurott is the best of the V-Star, and I feel very, very confident saying so. Argue with me in the comments section. I dare you. So, regular Hisuian Samurott. Obviously, these are all Stage 2s, and that needs to be borne in mind as we go through. There is going to be an issue here with the fact that they're Stage 2s, and they're awkward to get into play, and this might cause some issues. But ignoring all of that, what have we got here? Well, we've got 170 HP, which is good for a Stage 2, and we've got an awesome ability. Once during your turn, you may discard a card from your hand, and if you do, draw 3 cards. Love it. Absolutely love it. Now, of course, this is going to look fairly familiar. This is Chinchino, or if you prefer, this is Liepard, but in each case you draw an extra card. So Chinchino from Sword and Shield, Liepard from Brilliant Stars, they are discard a card from your hand and draw 2 cards. This is draw 3. So clearly it's a lot better. And it's going to look a little bit familiar, of course, because we've seen this ability before, and the kind of fun thing is, well, we didn't see it on a Samurott, but we did see it on another first partner Pokemon. Yeah, this was on Swampert. And I'm sorry, but Hisuian Samurott is cooler than Swampert. There, I said it. The Swampert that came around in Celestial Storm had this exact ability. And I did see this Swampert seeing play. We had some Stage 2 decks around at the time that took advantage of various tricks, and these would be put in there as a little bit of a draw engine. Although it's got to be borne in mind, this isn't just a draw engine, because it's also discarding a card from your hand, which, you know, there's a whole bunch of things that can play from the discard pile, and this is one of them. This is going to help you. This is going to get cards into the discard so that any of those cards that play from the discard are going to have a wonderful time. It is a great ability. It is great for draw power. It's a Stage 2. That's the decision to be made here. If you're happy with that, brilliant. It's a great draw power. I rather suspect if I'm using a Darkness Pokemon to be drawing cards, I'm probably going to end up going for Liepard instead. Also, I've got to shout out the artwork here, which is just phenomenal. As for the attack, Darkness, double colorless, 60 damage, 20 more for each energy attached to all of your Pokemon in play. Bearing in mind, if you're a Darkness Pokemon and you're going Darkness energy, this is perfect. Because we've got Dark Patch, which will attach an energy, and we've got Galarian Moltres that you can bench with 2 extra energy attached, and we've got Galarian Moltres V, which lets you attach an extra energy from the discard to itself once per turn. Oh, look! A reason to be discarding cards, which you can do with Hisuian Samurott. Remember, it's only once per turn regardless of how many Galarian Moltres you've got, but this is clearly working out beautifully. And when I told you about Darkrai V-Star the other day, I told you that it looked absolutely nutty good broken, because for 2 colorless energy, you do 30 more damage for each darkness energy attached to all of your Pokemon, and then you had the ability to let you put 2 item cards from your discard pile into your hand. I expect Darkrai to be a proper top tier deck moving forward. I expect it to be phenomenal. And oh, look. Does this not just look like a Pokemon that will be perfect in a Darkrai deck? I think so. Worth pointing out, Hisuian Samurott is energy, not darkness energy, so yeah. It might be a Stage 2, but in a Darkrai deck, giving draw power and giving a single prize attacker that fits the theme of the deck, I adore this. I'm giving it 4 Wassies. Yes, it's a Stage 2, but it's got a really good ability, and it's got a really good attack, and it fits nicely into Darkrai decks. I really hope this ends up being as good as it could be. Now, Hisuian Decidueye comes along, and we've got 160 HP, which is a little bit lower. But really, the star of this is, because it's a Hisuian Pokemon, it can have a free attack, and it does, and it's good. Now, for a fighting double colorless, you do 80 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. This is not good. Also, did I mention our translations are from the lovely Antoine Boulet? If I didn't, I apologize, because they are. I don't like this. There is nothing about this that gets me particularly excited. Boo, hiss, etc. Too expensive. Stage 2, not enough. And even if I'm trying to kind of poke little Pokemon off the bench, this doesn't even get a Chinchino. No. But I love Penetrating Talons. For literally 0 energy, you deal 30 damage for each damage counter on your opponent's active Pokemon. And this is another one that I look at and I go, even though it's a stage 2, I can genuinely see myself playing this. And here's what's so good about this. 0 energy. Literally 0 energy. What that means is, sure, it's a stage 2, and I've got to have all 3 parts in my deck, and I've got to actually find them, I've got to get them into play, etc. But I can put this into any deck whatsoever. And sure, I've got to get the stage 2 out, but once I get the stage 2 out, I can just attack with it. Not only do I not need to find the right kind of energy, I don't need to find any energy, I can just roll. And incidentally, it's a really nice attack. You know, if your opponent's got 7 damage counters on, then you deal 210, and that adds up to 280, which, not for nothing, that is enough to KO any V-Star we've seen. Like, 2 of the new ones we've seen in this set, you're talking about Dialga and Palkia, and oh look, they just so happen to be 280 HP V-Star. And 70 damage is not a lot. That can be done with almost anything. What you've got here is a Pokemon which is phenomenal at finishing off Pokemon, even when they don't actually have that much damage on. And that's why I love this. I think this is absolutely brilliant. I don't like that it's a stage 2. I just don't. I'm sorry. It's not good. However, once you get it up, you don't need to worry about energy. It's a phenomenal attack. Again, I'm giving it 4 Wassies. Generally, I look at these stage 2s and I go, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. Here I look at the stage 2 and I go, look, it's a stage 2 and that's awkward, but actually, I can make this work because I can put this as a 1-1-1 line in my deck. I can spend like the whole game getting it into play because as soon as I do, I've got a really powerful attacker set up and ready to go. I like this, ladies and gentlemen. I like it a lot. So if I like those 2, how do I feel about Hisuian Typhlosion? I like the artwork. What we got here is 150 HP, which is getting onto fairly embarrassing territory. As an attack, we got Psychic Colorless, 90 damage. The defending Pokemon can't retreat during your opponent's next turn. And I don't like it. I just don't. It's not a single energy, and it doesn't do enough damage. Now, don't get me wrong, right? I like this as an attack. I like not letting my opponent retreat. I like the fact that if I'm not 1-hit KOing, I'm 2-hit KOing with Disruption. But if you don't have a Choice Belt on here, you're not even 2-hit KOing Pokemon Vs, and I know with a Choice Belt you will be, but I don't want to have a Choice Belt to 2-hit KO with a multiple energy attack on a stage 2. That's not good enough. And it basically is just that. It's not enough damage, and it's not a single energy attack. I don't like it. Let's move on. The ability, Ghostly Wisps. Once during your turn, you may discard a Psychic Energy from your hand, and if you do, your opponent's active Pokemon is now burned and confused. So once again, we have got a really nice ability. Confusion makes them flip a coin, and if they flip tails when they attack, they take 3 damage. Burn, they take 2 damage, and then they got to flip a coin. If heads, they're no longer burned. This is super annoying, but I don't see this anywhere near how I see the other 2. Because Hisuian Samurott, you've got that really good draw engine, and it fits perfectly in a Darkrai deck. Hisuian Decidueye, I've got a 0 energy attack that could literally fit into any deck whatsoever. Hisuian Typhlosion, I've got to be playing Psychic Energy, and then I've got to have it in my hand, and then I've got to be willing to discard it. And none of this adds up properly. This isn't like when we had Malamar, and I wanted a bunch of Psychic Energy in a discard so I could accelerate it using Malamar, this is just disappointing. I'm not saying it's bad, and I'm not saying it's not going to see play in Psychic decks, but I absolutely am saying that it is noticeably the worst of the three, and I'm just not a fan. I'm giving it 3 Wassies. I could see Psychic decks playing it, and I could see it being useful. An automatic burn and confusion on an ability is clearly good, but on a stage 2 where you've got to draw into the energy and be willing to discard it, I don't think that is the same, ladies and gentlemen. I really don't. And, you know, we could look at something like the Salazzle that came around in Battle Styles that for 2 colorless energy does 90 damage, 3 special condition. Obviously, being able to put 2 on there is really nice. But we're still in that same awkward situation where, no. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not buying it. I don't think that this is going to be the best way to get them on. You know, Weeping Bell, when you evolve into it, does burn and poison. And that's a stage 1 that is just when you evolve into it. And sure, it's not every turn, admittedly. But I'm sorry, even in that deck, I don't want to play this. I think this is the weakest of them. And that makes me a little bit sad. But unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, that's the way it is. But we do have one more stage 2 we need to be having a little bit of a chat about here. It is Magnezone, and Magnezone is another one of these that I think could be very nice indeed. We did actually mention this one briefly when we talked about Dialga V-Star, but I think we need to talk about it a little bit more. So what we've got here is 150 HP, which as we mentioned is terrible, and an attack for 1 metal, 2 colorless energy, which does 120 damage. No. Free energy on a stage 2, I don't like. 120 will get the majority of single prize Pokemon, but that's it. No. What we do have is a phenomenal ability. Once during your turn, you may look at the top 6 cards of your deck and attach any number of metal energy you find to your Pokemon in any way you like. Yes. Perfect. Now, again, this is on a stage 2. I admit it, I accept it, I know it's not a perfect situation. But goodness me, this is a good ability. Like, this is a phenomenal ability. It's crazy over the top good. It's ridiculous. Have I gotten across how good this ability is? Because the fact of the matter is that this could get you 6 extra energy. Now, I'm not saying it will get you 6 extra energy, but I am saying it's possible. And I am saying that in the late game, you could go playing something like an energy recycler as an example, which puts a whole bunch of energy back into your deck. And what you're essentially doing is artificially stacking your deck so that you end up with a greater proportion of energy in there so that you are going to hit so much better off of this ability. As an example. This is just great. And I showed you with Dialga V-Star that this is just phenomenal because Dialga V-Star needs a lot of energy, but this could work nicely. And again, I don't know this is going to be good enough. I don't know that this stage 2 is going to work like I would ideally want this stage 2 to work. The fact, and that really is a theme of this video, outside of Hisuian and Typhlosion, which I do think is underwhelming, these are great Pokemon. I don't think they're good. I think that if you look at Hisuian Samurott, Hisuian Decidueye, and Magnezone, these are great Pokemon. Genuinely great. If you can get them into play, and their stage 2s, which I've said like 20 times now, but I'm sorry, it's really important, ladies and gentlemen. It is really very important. And that's where we sit here. If you can get this into play consistently, you are going to have just a ridiculously consistent deck. Because the other thing to bear in mind about an ability like this is, what you're doing is getting all the energy out of your deck. Which means that the other cards you want to draw into, things like your Pokemon, supporter cards, things of that nature, you are going to draw into them way more easily because your deck is going to be smaller, so it's going to be easier to find those other cards. And let's not forget that this is once per turn, but it doesn't say you can only use one of these abilities per turn. It's once per turn per Magnezone. So if I get 2 Magnezone in play, I can do this twice during my turn, etc., etc. I don't like the attack, But something like a Dialga deck, if you can get Magnezone in play, this is going to work. And I already told you how broken I think Dialga is. I'm giving this 4 Wassies, and honestly, the only reservation I have is it's a Stage 2. But the fact of the matter is, we see Stage 2C play if they're good enough, and I cannot tell you definitively that is the case here, but I also can't tell you it's not. I want this to work. I love all of these cards, except Hisui and Typhlosion, which I think is very underwhelming. But now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to know what you think. I want to know if you think these are as good as I think they are. I want to know whatever you want to tell me, basically. So let me know in the comment section, would you? Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.